Hey, hello, welcome back. In last video, we saw how to calculate the latency of any of the endpoint. But now the problem is, if you want to calculate the average time taken by your endpoint is, then you have to divide this number by this number. But this is the average time. Let's assume 90% of the time your application responded fast and returned back the response in 0.01 second, but there are 10% of calls which are taking, let's say, 10 seconds or 15 seconds to respond back. But as this is average, you don't have any metrics to understand that. And for that, we have Quantile for our help. So objective of this video is how to define Quantile, how to define a different parameter, different label names for the Quantile, and how to calculate the time based on the different Quantile parameter. Till the last video we were doing like this. So 5 calls took 0.031 seconds. But whenever we added Quantile, you can see the drastic change in the seconds. Why is this so? So let's go deeper to understand the concept of Quantile. Let's go to Eclipse. So let's continue on the previous video's example only so that we can correlate. If you watched my last video, then you know we had a Prometheus also in the calculation. Just add this line of code. It will filter based on the endpoint. So if you want to filter your matrix based on the specific endpoint or specific context root, then this is the code. So before starting, actually the word quantile comes from word quantity. In simple terms, a quantile is where a sample is divided into equal sized adjacent subgroups. Difficult, but it's okay. Let's do practically so we never forget. So let's define one different matrix, public static final. As you know, we define it as log, name it as a request latency underscore with quantile equal to summary dot build dot name. We give help. We are going to write same for all the endpoints. So we define label names and then we register. This is the same like previous name. Let me copy to save our time. So let me copy this all three. Just to differentiate, let me change the name. Let's do like simply request latency seconds with quantile. Okay. So register and but only difference is here you can also define in summary matrix type quantile. So in quantile, if we check, there is a two value, one with quantile and one is a error. I will tell you what it is doing as per our problem statement. So this is a quantile value and let's say I'm going to give 0.005 as a error. That's a allowed error. Don't worry about this, why we define quantile 0.95 and about this error. I'm going to explain within a minute. So let's copy this and we define one filter where we added a start time. We calculated the complete duration time taken by this endpoint to serve and we printed method, path and the status from the response. Okay. So the same thing you do with labels where in the labels you calculate method from the request, path from the request and status from the response and observe as we are going to observe the duration. That's duration means time taken by this endpoint to serve. This endpoint, no, this is the filter written for your REST controller. So any of the endpoint before coming here, they will pass through the filter method, do filter method, and this code will be executed. So here normally we are passing a control towards the REST endpoint. Okay, and after coming from the REST endpoint we are doing the calculation. So that's it. Let's run the project. Let's hit. So you see two types are defined now, one with quantile and one is the normal one. So let's hit one hello endpoint 2-3 times. Now hit Prometheus endpoint. Now you can see this is a matrix for quantile. So we hit endpoint 4 times and with 0.95 precision the time is 0.004. But if you check previous, it's a 4 and 0.02. So this is sum of the time taken by all of your endpoints. Okay, 0.02. So if you want to calculate the average, then it's 0.023 divided by 4. That's roughly 0.0057. But here you can see it's not 0057, it's 0046. Why is the difference? So how you read a quantile matrix? 90% of the calls were faster than 0.0046 seconds and 5% calls were slower than 0.004. That means 5% of the call are taking more time than 0.0046. Make sense? So here you know that our 90% of the calls are faster than this. So this is very good if you compare with this matrix. Here you have to calculate average, right? And that will also give you 0.0057. So as you know that 5% calls are taking more than 0.046, and if we are okay with it, then we can consider our application is performing well. Now the next question, why we gave this 0.005 allowed error? Actually, tracking exact quantiles requires large amount of memory because all the observation need to be stored in a sorted list. Therefore, we allow an error to significantly reduce memory usage. In this example, the allowed error of 0.005 means that you will not get the exact 0.95 quantile, but anything between 0.945 and 0.955. Hope you got this point. Experiment shows that typically needs to keep less than 100 samples to provide that precision, even if you have hundreds of millions of observations. So it's always good to provide some allowed errors to save our memory. You can define many numbers of quantile here. So let's define one quantile for 50%. So 0.5 and I have error of let's say 0.01. Save, run, application started. So let's go here, hit Prometheus, there is nothing. So hit 4 times, 2, 3, 4. And now here you can see this is the normal count and sum. And here with the quantile 0.5 and 1 with 0.95. So here you can see 50% of the call are faster than 0.044 and 95% are 0.0056. So it will give you a matrix. So how fast 50% were, how fast 95% were, and like that you can take your decision. So it's always good to have a quantile instead of calculating the average, right? And using a PromQL on it is the same. So which I already explained in my last video, how to use a PromQL queries in Prometheus to generate an alert. So that if anything is wrong here, it will give you an incident or SMS. So hope you understand the quantile concept and how to use in the summary matrix type. So see you in next video. My next video will be on histogram, as it's the same as a summary. So maybe I will skip the histogram and I will directly jump how to define an alert by installing a Prometheus, how to generate an alert with Alert Manager by installing a Prometheus locally. So see you in next video. Thank you very much.